Beamy Caleb, back-end dev at Brightwave Analytics, generic glass office between freeway and depressing strip mall, spend days herding data pipelines, ad conversions, broken cron jobs, nothing glamorous, just numbers screaming whenever something silently explodes in production. Company tolerable, coffee not poison, managers mostly hide stress inside slides instead of yelling directly into open space. Old HR guy retires. To fish and see grandkids, we clap around sheet cake that tastes like wet cardboard and printer ink. Few weeks later, email arrives. Please welcome our new Director of People and Culture, Marissa Hale. Full emoji parade, in subject, all hands scheduled. Entire office herded into big conference room, smelling like stale pizza, dry markers, and faint, recycled despair. Marissa walks in, early 30s, razor blazer, undercut, huge earrings, stack of printed studies, like portable social science convention, projector flickers on. First slide says, Reimagining Work as a Healing Space from Patriarchy. Fonts softer than our quarterly targets. She talks systems of harm, emotional labor, dismantling masculine defaults, literally TED Talk crossbred with LinkedIn hustle aesthetics and therapy speak. Wait for boring information about health insurance or chairs without pain. Multiplier, instead, get lecture about men unconsciously occupying space. Presentation ends. A couple marketing girls clap with visible enthusiasm. Rest of room performs survival applause like hostages signaling compliance. Next morning, email announces Women's Reflection Lounge on 3rd floor, described like sacred sanctuary, spiritual spa with badge access. Marissa explains quiet rooms historically. Center male focus work, so she's reclaiming one as women-only healing space for processing workplace trauma. Only real quiet room, with solid door and decent chairs, disappears behind sign reading. Gentle space, women only, please respect. Manager pings me. Says Marissa needs help setting up the lounge. Asks if I can support the move before stand-up expect quick favor. Instead, spend prime focus hour hauling couches while sprint board silently bleeds red behind my abandoned monitor. Marissa supervises from doorway, says, We don't want the women straining themselves, like I'm unpaid mover paying patriarchy tax and sweat. Ask if engineers get replacement quiet room for calls. She smiles, says, You boys are resilient, you'll adapt beautifully. Rest of us now take client calls hunched in hallway, while sales yells numbers and someone microwaves leftover fish, again without remorse. Tell myself every company runs dumb culture stunt occasionally, usually dies quietly when someone remembers payroll dates and client contracts. Few days later, another email announces Women's Empowerment Book Club every Tuesday afternoon, counted as paid professional development hours. Eligible participants explicitly employees who identify as women. Reading list full manifestos explaining why hoodies equal structural violence. First Tuesday, half marketing, and a couple product managers vanish upstairs, clutching hardcovers like they're joining an underground resistance cell. Team lead leans over my monitor, asks if I can pick up extra back-end tickets because Tracy's at book club, you know how it is. Sprint board already looks like landfill. Not anyway. Arguing about fairness always loses to magic phrase. We already promised leadership. Pattern settles in. Women reading about oppression on comfy couches while remaining dudes quietly duct tape production together with caffeine and anxiety. Marissa then launches women's wellness stipend, monthly budget for therapy, massages, fancy salads, framed as repairing accumulated emotional damage. Stipend is women only. Justification paragraph says men already benefit from centuries of structural support, whatever arithmetic produced. That conclusion, lunchtime becomes parade of delivery drivers hauling poke bowls and smoothies into lounge while I microwave yesterday's pasta at my crowded desk. Maintenance guy eventually wheels away our only massage chair. Taped sign announces relocation to women's lounge. To better serve healing. Engineers left with plastic conference chairs squeaking louder than us during midnight incidents. Symbolism accidentally spot on for whole arrangement. Corridor near HR soon sprouts corkboard labeled accountability wall. Baskets of markers and sticky notes arranged like altar of grievances. Sign invites anonymous stories of everyday sexism, tells men to read, reflect, resist the urge to center yourself with explanations. First day board empty. By Friday, it looks like subreddit made from post-its. Collage of petty annoyances and legitimate horror stories mixed together. Notes complain about pet names, tone of voice, jokes about emotions. One line specifically mentions back-end guy rolling eyes during stand-up. Brain replays stand-up where contact lens dried, while product manager monologued about patriarchy in toolbar icons. Timeline suspiciously aligns with accusation following Monday invite appears. Accountability circle. Themes from the wall. Mandatory for men in engineering. Optional for everyone else. Conveniently circle happens in conference room. Chairs arranged ring style. Marissa near board like high priestess of vague accusations and pattern recognition, she reads selected notes. Talks about systemic trends. Eyes hovering near our row whenever sarcasm, back-end, or hoodies get mentioned even indirectly. Meeting closes with homework to journal about ways you silently benefit from women self-censoring. Conceptual yoga pose nobody requested or understands. Later, she pings me privately, invites me to one-on-one. Subject, supporting your ally journey. Translation: You are a potential problem, my friend. In her office, she says several women reported tense energy around me. Repeats phrase 3 times, never once gives concrete example. Lays printed coaching plan on table. Bullet points like actively validate feelings. Avoid minimizing lived experience. Signature line, quietly waiting. Arguing would just add defensive to invisible case file. Sign paper, like accepting crooked firmware update for my entire personality. Walk back to desk, knowing any sigh or eyebrow twitch might become next. Anonymous sticky note pinned to a public wall. Month later, she introduces trigger scan walkthroughs. Volunteer women from committee roam aisles, hunting potentially harmful visual signals. One of them flips through my notebook, finds dumb barbarian doodle drawn during boring roadmap meeting, looks at it like contraband hate symbol. She quietly says it might reinforce hyper-masculine fantasies, snaps photo for internal reflection, suggests drawing plants instead of swords and helmets. Couple days later, notice my USB stick missing from drawer. Nothing critical on it. Still feels like someone went through bedside table uninvited. Next company-wide email addresses. Parking safety says women feel anxious crossing lot. Demands real action, not just brighter lights and signage. Marissa's solution reserves all front parking, primarily for women and gender minorities. men instructed to park behind strip mall and enjoy the walk. My mornings now include real-life Frogger sprint across access road with laptop bag while praying not to become diversity-themed traffic statistic, watch designer, climb into company-paid Uber to reach smoothie bar 2 blocks away because walking alone feels unsafe for my nervous system. Same afternoon manager brings up slightly later commit times. Apparently, chance of me getting flattened by SUV doesn't factor into performance discussion. All of this accumulates quietly, one small initiative at a time, until office starts feeling like laboratory for testing male endurance limits. Another note appears on accountability wall, large handwriting. Developer commented on my outfit, made me feel objectified and unsafe. At next circle, Marissa reads it theatrically, launches speech about engineers treating women's bodies like public property for their gaze and commentary. Room temperature spikes. Every man suddenly studying floor tiles like they hold secret instructions for non-threatening existence. After meeting, she corners me near fridge, says some women want to move desks away, repeats, "They don't feel safe around you." Like mantra. No specific incident, just accusation cloud and soft threat of future formal warning if my mysterious energy field doesn't improve promptly. That evening open Slack for memes, drift into hashtag culture initiatives instead, where Marissa posts long essays about brave experiments in justice. Find sentence saying, "If men experience delays, maybe they'll finally taste the structural frustration women live with every day." Read it a few times. Close laptop. Realize structural frustration mainly tastes like cold coffee and missed deadlines for literally everyone under that storm cloud company signs monstrous client, national retail chain wanting dashboards, prediction models, uptime, and adults in the room. Contract has penalty clause, separate security audit, timeline so aggressive our roadmap looks like suicide note written in Gantt bars. CEO gives dramatic speech about new chapter of growth, then announces he'll travel chasing more whales, leaves CTO and Marissa running the daycare engineering war room assembled, massive Gantt chart projected, my name taped onto core ingestion and privacy blocks like warning label stress, at least understandable now. Numbers and latency graphs instead of emotional resonance charts. Old familiar misery, programmable with caffeine. Week before demo invite pops from Marissa. Women's Justice Day experiment. Bold subject. Description reads like religious manifesto for office politics. Plan is women take one whole work day off from performing emotional labor for men, including answering their questions and explaining processes. They're encouraged to log what breaks when they stop patching holes, basically chaos engineering, but with feelings and zero rollback strategy. Scroll down, heart drops when date perfectly matches client pre-demo afternoon and start of external security audit interviews. Tell manager, he looks like guy between two trucks labeled revenue and optics. Mumbles CTO already argued and lost the boss fight. Night before Justice Day, pipelines held together with duct tape and whispered prayers. Still need approvals from product and data governance. Mostly women next morning arrive sweaty from long walk across distant lot. Lobby plastered with posters screaming, "Today, women rest from male demands." Subtitle declares, "If you are a man, today you listen, you don't insist, you don't rush." Corporate commandments of slow motion disaster. First email I send, Goes to product about weird discount edge case. Auto reply instantly refuses male-initiated requests in honor of Justice Day. Second mail to analytics about retention rule gets near identical response, different wording, same message. Try again tomorrow. Patriarchy can wait. DM someone in Slack, get heart reaction, and pasted Justice Day announcement instead of anything resembling a technical answer. Open hashtag Women Lounge channel. Pinned message from Marissa says, "Women, you owe men nothing today, especially not your time, energy, or explanations." Around same time, auditors arrive. Compliance pings asking which data person can walk them through our environment. List of experts mostly upstairs with essential oils around 11. CTO appears, thin smile stretched over panic, announces client wants pre-demo moved up to 3 p.m. Because of course they do adds. Auditors will start technical interviews right after, says he's counting on full cooperation. Room glances at vacant chairs from product and analytics. Remind him politely where everyone is. He curses quietly and heads toward third floor like doomed pilgrim entering forbidden temple. We see him through glass, stopping at women's lounge doorway. Marissa blocking entrance, arms folded, body language pure, guardian of sacred space. Can't hear words, but conversation ends with him walking back smaller, says we need to do our best with available resources. Translation, save us quietly. 5 engineers cram into tiniest conference room, drag in laptops, whiteboards still covered in half-erased retro notes from some forgotten sprint, need firewall change. So client IP hits staging, only CCOPS person with permission is in Justice Circle, status busy, responses non-existent, send polite DM explaining contract, deadline, risk, receive canned message about not being available for mail asks today, suggests reaching out tomorrow, CTO posts in leadership channel asking for exception. Marissa replies, "If systems collapse when women rest, that is the valuable data we need." Stare at that line while editing configs, realizing someone is playing production Jenga for a Medium article about courage. Dig into old tickets, find dusty temporary rule, clone and tweak manually, praying auditors accept ugly explanation later over instant demo detonation 3 p.m. Zoom springs to life. Client VP on call, CTO, and account manager wearing their best "this is fine." Corporate smiles, walk through dashboards, latency slightly crunchy but survivable. One widget loads slow, blame caching, swear improvement before launch, demo ends without flames, client sounds mostly satisfied. We exhale, then compliance message arrives. Auditors flagged manual firewall change with weird timing. Hop into quick meeting, explain Justice Day in driest possible terms. Highlight choice between outage and minor process violation. Choose lesser evil. Compliance guy rubs eyes, calls it governance nightmare. Takes notes, says issue will be escalated, above our pay grades. Phrase both comforting and horrifying. Justice Day ends. Women leave lounge glowing and relaxed. Men leave tiny war room looking like extras from disaster movie who survived the first wave. Next morning, invite appears. Justice Day debrief, sharing and accountability, attendance mandatory for men, warmly encouraged for women, debrief features, women describing joy of ignoring male pings, Marissa nodding like proud coach, calling it radical liberation from male expectations. Then she turns toward us, asks what we learned, voice soft, underlying steel obvious even through corporate polite phrasing. One engineer carefully mentions communication gaps. She instantly reframes it as proof of male dependence on women's uncredited emotional labor. After meeting, she drags me back into her office, says my facial expressions read as resistance, updates coaching plan with nonverbal hostility. Bullet. At this point, my anxiety upgrades from background process to full operating system, running constantly. CPU pegged no matter what I'm actually doing. Couple days later, CEO returns from travel. Rumor says auditors briefed him using phrase, cultural experiment impacting resilience. Not a great headline. See him walking hallway with CFO, both holding thick printouts. Overhear fragments like rideshare spend by gender and timeline correlation with incident. One evening, staying late closing tickets, I wander into hashtag culture initiatives again, apparently subscribed to masochism as a service. Now Marissa posts long reflection that Justice Day revealed male fragility when denied access to women's labor, attention, and emotional translation services. Couple lines lower, she writes, if a man says something is urgent, remember, urgency is patriarchal performance, not actual reality. Think about contract, firewall logs, auditors. Realize reality strongly disagreed, but invoice for experiment still addressed to rest of us. Assistant schedules meeting titled Justice Day Operational Review. Attendees CEO, CFO, CTO, Marissa, plus me as sacrificial engineering representative. Walk into conference room colder than server cage. Everyone already seated, folders open, faces neutral enough to belong in stock photos. CEO thanks Marissa for innovative efforts, voice polite but thin, then asks for clear overview of how Justice Day interacted with actual operations. She launches into speech about rested women, qualitative insights, psychological safety metrics, not one mention of contracts, firewalls, or audits. CFO eventually cuts in, asks how experiment aligned with obligations to major client and external auditors, mentions specific delays and manual overrides. Marissa says some men were resistant, implies their negative energy, sabotaged the experiment's full potential, throws quick side glance toward my chair. C2 calmly says engineering scrambled, while key communication channels were intentionally shut down by people and culture, calls that non-trivial risk introduction. CEO folds hands, asks someone to walk through factual timeline from technical side, minute by minute. No metaphors, just events. CTO nods at me, says I was closest to back-end chaos, asks me to explain plainly what happened, good and bad. No heroics, heart-pounding but incident report brain kicks in, start describing auto replies, Slack messages, missing approvals, firewall hack, demo, and audit pain. Explain how early in day female stakeholders set auto responses declining male requests. Quote, phrases about Justice Day boundaries and owed labor describe repeated attempts to reach CCOPs, status stuck on in circle, 0 responses, outline decision to reuse old rule as least awful option available. CFO asks whether those messages still exist. Open laptop, show product managers auto reply about not answering male-initiated requests that entire day cast to screen. Room goes very quiet. Only air conditioner and someone's nervous throat, clear daring to make sound switch to Slack. Open-pinned lounge post from Marissa. Red line, trust that nothing truly urgent depends on you today, especially from men. Silence thickens, someone shuffles papers, Nobody jokes about vibes anymore. Everyone's suddenly very interested in logs and timestamps. Marissa jumps in, says everything is out of context, claims my focus on uptime over emotions, proves I'm steeped in patriarchal conditioning. CEO ignores psychoanalysis, asks if any contingency plan existed to protect critical systems and audits while experiment ran, voice still calm but sharp. She starts talking about letting systems fail to expose reliance on women. CFO interrupts, says auditors call that negligence, not insight. Conversation widens, they question parking rules, Uber program, book club during crunch hours, incubator projects, quietly using production infrastructure. CTO mentions compliance worries about unreviewed incubator apps. CFO points at overtime graphs rising with wellness expenses like cursed twin charts after a long pause. CEO sighs, looks at Marissa long enough to make air feel heavier, then says, line that basically ends her entire reign, he supports making workplace safer, acknowledges real issues, but says deliberately breaking communication during critical windows is flatly unacceptable, mentions board concerns about risk management, uses phrase, loss of confidence in your judgment on operational boundaries, corporate death sentence delivered, politely announces formal review of all policies introduced under her tenure, places her on administrative leave, effective immediately while investigation happens, asks her to surrender badge and laptop after meeting, says it will secure accounts, tone clinical, like decommissioning unstable service after too many outages. Marissa looks stunned, then furious, calls this backlash against strong woman, insists company is proving the exact need for her work. CEO thanks her for passion and ideas, repeats decision is final, corporate translation. Please pack your things and don't slam the door. She leaves stiffly, door closes soft, everyone exhales like someone finally shut off high-pitched noise we pretended not to hear for months. CFO thanks me for timeline, acknowledges it was uncomfortable, says logs and text beat, endless argument about whose perception counts more. C2 claps my shoulder in hallway, calls me unexpected adult in the room. I say, I'd rather have been unexpected lottery winner. Following weeks feel like rollback, slow revert from cursed branch to barely stable mainline, merge conflicts, but fewer healing circles. Women's lounge quietly renamed Focus Room. Shows up on calendar as neutral quiet space. Description just says, please keep noise low. Book club moves to after hours, becomes open to everyone. Attendance drops to handful of people who actually like reading books. Uber program rewritten as safety rides for late shifts, regardless of gender. Cost graphs stop looking like glitch and start resembling sanity again. Wellness studio stays, but limited to lunch hours. No more mid-sprint screaming into yoga bolsters while production smolders in background. Accountability wall disappears overnight, replaced by dull posters about fishing and ergonomics, sticky notes demoted to regular trash instead of moral scoreboard rumor. Around office, says Marissa, left to pursue advocacy work. Someone shares her new LinkedIn headline. Radical HR changemaker. Chat laughs, then moves on. Atmosphere settles into normal, slightly bleak office mode. Main threats, once again, deadlines and legacy code instead of surprise. Public character assassinations. I'm still same back-end guy who prefers bug reports over meetings, now with upgraded understanding how fast ideology can brick a company. Sometimes walk past focus room, see men and women quietly working together. arguing about tickets, not metaphors. Oddly refreshing sight. Grab burnt coffee, return to terminal, silently pray. Next big incident is just bad code and not another cultural revolution in HR clothing.